to change these batteries. I have the battery. Alright, so let us update our draft. Sobek, lawful, welcome. Kem, lawful, greetings, welcome. Hope everybody is good. Wayne, lawful, welcome. Welcome, welcome one and all. We will be getting started shortly. Come my class. That's what I'm talking about. Zine? That's what I'm talking about. So, what is this? Okay. All right. So, as you know, we're always dropping gems. TikTok police, lawful, welcome. We are going to be deep diving into some topics, and we're going to continue constitutional drafting. Matter of fact, we're going to do constitutional drafting first, and then CJ, lawful, welcome. And then we're going to get into some connected matters. All right. So we are not going to waste any time today. Let's see. Alrighty. So let us bring up our browser so that we can get started. Empire Strikes Back. I know about that one still, you know. Yeah, before we get carried away. Yeah, man. We're going to ensure that we cover the primary topic at hand first. I'm gonna put this here now. Put this over here. So. Cover the primary topic, and then we can go off into the weeds. And I know everybody love talk about traffic and court, so we can talk about that later. But for right now, we are gonna get to constitutional drafting because, again, you know, people might not realize this yet, but it is actually, the most important thing that can be done right about now, right? We started constitutional drafting 2 months ago, and we've gotten quite far. And today I am going to share with you some of the latter portions of it that I've been holding off on because we didn't really want to talk about a lot of these things before it was necessary to do so. So we're going to talk about some important, very detailed matters today, coming from some suggestions. And some people don't want their information to be put on the site. They don't want to have any connection with, certain things because of either their exposure or their public office, or some people just want privacy, right? So we're going to share and we're going to go through some sections that are necessary. Again, we are close, but we're not 100% there. I think we're at about 95% done. So we're going to cover some more of the draft, and then we're going to get into some other connected matters. So without further ado, let us get over to our draft. So here we are on voiceofjamaica.com. Scroll down and we click on our new constitution. And again, before we start, I am not a lawyer, I am not an attorney, I am not providing legal advice. Anything I say is my own opinions. I don't take consultations, and there is no client relationship here. Strictly voluntary. I can scroll if you don't want to see. Let us proceed. All right, so here we have our constitutional draft. And we are now at 297 pages. I was trying to keep this below this kind of threshold, but given the level of detail that we need to complete this task, it is not possible. It has to be a larger body of document, but it is still nowhere close to what we have been subjected to. La la la, Kuya. Start get reports already. Gifts are suspended and your life is restricted in recommendation. Due to reproduce content. What reproduce content? What am I talking about? Hold on a second. Okay. Yeah, them say them restrict. So I send in an appeal, right? All right. So let us proceed with our draft, right? So, okay, them a filter comments now. Yeah, them copyright strike. This is a draft. This is something we're creating. I don't know where them depend, but whatever, right? So, we updated the table of contents a little bit, but it is still not complete yet. Last time we covered customs and border control, and we have now added a few more sections, including crimes and penalties standard, right? So we're going to head down to the relevant sections and proceed from there. That's what, 41, 38, 40. What was this? Oh, we had the road safety and transportation section. What was this? Customs and crimes and penalties standard. Now, in our current society, we don't have much clarity. If you want to find out what a crime is, most likely you have to go through a large body of information. Nothing is clear for us. So if you even want to know what is a basic traffic offense, because really and truly we all know that breaking a stoplight could never amount to being a crime. It is just ridiculous, right? Having an expired driver's license, that could never amount to being a crime. It don't make no sense. When we talk about crime, it has to be something that is harmful. It can't just say, oh, it is an offense. That is the other thing, you know. Did you know that the term offense means an offense against the crown? It's like that. Then basically I say, you don't have respect for the crown. That is what really the term offense come from, English law. So we have not only copied the English law that has been in place since colonial times, we have continued it. And I say we, because we the people have not demanded the change in the proper way, right? So anyways, so here we have a classification of offenders, duties, and sanctions. So that way, everybody will know what a crime is, right? Though says, but you're still using English law, no matter what draft you have, you're still using their concept. Well, again, like we stated from the beginning, we are not here to reinvent the wheel, right? We already have, I guess you can say, indoctrination. We already have a way of thinking, right? So it's very hard to think outside the box when you have to make a living. However, what we can do is we can take what we have and we can refine it and we can change it in such a way that it benefits the people as it was always intended to be, rather than benefiting some external party. So, you know, even though we may take some concepts from English law, our foundation cannot be, I would say British law, not to say English law, because, you know, English is a language. You know, it is most of the foundations in the Western Hemisphere, because they were conquered by the British, they fall under British law, right? And thereby their foundation in their constitutions, most of them arise from British law. So while some aspects of British law are good, we are not going to use British law as a foundation. We would define and create our own legal standard as it concerns the law itself. And that does not mean we're going to recreate every single thing, because it just don't make no sense to do that, right? If we want to remain civilized and protected as a people, as a group, it is essential that we don't disrupt every single part of life just to recreate something that could have simply been refined to suit our needs, right? So we are at Article 42, right? Classification of offenders, duties, and sanctions. The purpose. This article establishes uniform standards for defining criminal conduct, classifying offenders by duty and authority, and imposing proportionate and lawful penalties. All determination shall be based strictly on written law, proven facts, and recorded evidence. Equality before the law. All persons are equal under this Constitution. No person shall receive immunity, privilege, or exemption from investigation or prosecution. Status, office, or affiliation shall not alter criminal responsibility. Let us talk about this for a second, right? Equality before the law. Right? Our current constitutional framework, let us pull it up because we like to speak lawful, don't? And we covered this many times, but for those who may not have been here, let us go over it so that we remain lawful. The Jamaica Bracket Constitution, Order in Council 1962. Right? So here is that order coming out of the British Council. Right? The Jamaica Constitution, Order in Council 1962. Alright, so we already went over the fact that this is a framework. This is not a real constitution. This is simply an order that is in place until a constitution was put together that can be used in the manner necessary to establish laws, right? So let's go again to section 48. Right? And we talk about this when we were even looking at American Revolution and American Declaration of Independence and the Federalist Papers and things like that. They have this same procedure, right? Where, see, we have 48, right? And 48 has 5 sections, or 5, they call it paragraph, but it's just sentences. Right? 5 sentences that make up section 48 of the Jamaica Constitution, Order in Council 1962. Right? So it says, subject to the provisions of this constitution, Parliament may make laws for the peace, order, and good government of Jamaica. Okay. So, when we go down to section 3, it creates an immunity clause. Right? So, everyone in Parliament is immune from prosecution. It says, no civil or criminal proceedings may be instituted against any member of either house for words spoken before or written in a report to the house of which he is a member, or to a committee thereof, or to any joint committee of both houses, or by reason of any matter or thing brought by him therein by petition, bill, resolution, motion, or otherwise. So anything them say, anything them write, anything them do from Parliament, them basically have one stick, right? And then can use that stick and do whatever them want. Nothing can touch them, right? So now this creates what's called a disparity. This creates ambiguity in the law, because if they can do anything without criminal prosecution, then how can we say that they are doing things for our best interest? This is something typically in what's called crown proceedings, right? You have certain class of people who are immune from prosecution, and here we have the same thing embedded in our constitutional framework, right? So if we're going to have a constitution for the people, we have to eliminate this classism, right? If everybody knows that them equal under the law and anybody can get prosecuted and anybody can get penalties, which we're going to get to shortly, then that is when we start having an actual fair society. Because if somebody knows them have the possibility, remember, you know, if we're going to have what they call a righteous society, a society where we don't have corruption, right? We would have to find ways to eliminate corruption, right? So we're not going to have jail no more where you can just go sit down and look. You have to either participate in society or you get a severe penalty, because we have to have some kind of severe means of deterring people from committing crimes, right? Right now, going to jail doesn't seem to be severe enough for many people. So, status, office, or affiliation shall not alter criminal responsibility. So that means that anybody will violate the law, criminal penalties. right? All right. Classification of persons. For the purposes of accountability, persons shall be classified as citizen, which would be any resident or national subject to the laws of Jamaica, a visitor, any non-resident present within Jamaica, and public servant, administrative, which is any person employed in public administration without enforcement authority, public official, enforcement arm, which means any person exercising enforcement authority, including the Public Peace Service and Road Regulation Force or similar bodies, public servant administrator, any person holding command or supervisory authority over public servants or officials, including parish commanders or national commanders, right? So it doesn't matter where you are in this pyramid or in this box. Once you are on the land of Jamaica, you are bound to follow the laws, right? Or face the penalties. Jurisdiction over all persons. All persons within Jamaica are subject to this constitution and its laws. Visiting officials from external states shall have no immunity from investigation, have no immunity from prosecution. Any claim of immunity has no legal effect. So you see, when you come over here, so you can't come do nothing. We violate the law and talk about no immunity. It doesn't matter what status you have on the external side of the island. Once you step foot on the land, you have to abide by all the laws. Plain and simple. Definitions of a crime, or definition of a crime. A crime is conduct that causes harm to a person, property, or public order, or violates a clear prohibition under this constitution. Classification of crime shall be based on harm caused, intent, and impact. Right? So there is no ambiguity. There is no question about, is that a crime? Is that not a crime? Is that, how do we classify that? How does that go? Everything is in plain English, right? Once you start violate somebody or somebody property or cause problem for the public, it's a crime. Plain and simple. Standard of proof. Criminal liability shall be established only where the act is proven. The person is proven to have committed the act and the act caused harm or violated law. Right? So, the three elements. Mens rea, actus reus, and corpus delicti, in plain English. Proof must meet the standard of beyond reasonable doubt. Right? Section 7. General penalty principles. Penalties shall be proportionate to harm, limited to what is necessary, and based on law. Punishment shall not be arbitrary, excessive, or imposed without lawful authority. And we're going to get to that shortly. Penalty categories. Penalties shall include restitution, which means a return of property or value, compensation, which is payment for proven loss, restriction, which is a limitation of certain rights where necessary, removal, which means removal from public office, disqualification, which means prohibition from holding public authority, detention, which means deprivation of liberty where required. Section 9. Citizens. Citizens shall be liable for all criminal conduct proven under law. Penalties shall be based on harm caused, intent, and impact on others. Visitors. Visitors shall be subject to the same laws as citizens. Visitors committing crimes shall be prosecuted within Jamaica and be subject to removal after lawful process where applicable. Right? So if you're a visitor, you still get the same treatment under criminal law, but you get deported after you're done, which is pretty common, right? Public servants, administrative. Public servants shall be held to a higher duty of conduct. Violations include misuse of position, concealment of information, failure to perform lawful duty. Penalties shall include removal from position, disqualification from public office, and compensation for harm caused. right? So here is, even though it's a compensation for harm caused, this is based on criminal liability, not necessarily a civil action, right? Public officials, enforcement arm. Public officials exercising enforcement authority are held to strict liability for misuse of power. Violations include unlawful detention, unlawful stop or search, excessive force, fabrication or suppression of evidence. Penalties shall include immediate suspension, removal from office, criminal prosecution, and civil liability. So, public officials are not safe when they are involved in crime. Public servant administrators. Administrators are responsible for actions they direct, actions they knowingly allow, and failure to prevent unlawful conduct. So if you see something happening and you know say it is wrong, then you are complicit in the crime. You know, become a part of it, right? Violations include abuse of authority, unlawful orders, failure to enforce constitutional limits. Penalties shall include removal from office, permanent disqualification, and criminal liability. High crimes. A high crime is any act that attempts to place a person above the Constitution, or undermines constitutional authority, or abuses public power for control or suppression. High crimes shall result in immediate removal from authority, permanent disqualification from public office, and criminal prosecution. Unlawful orders. No person shall obey an order that violates this Constitution. Any such order is void. Execution of an unlawful order shall result in liability. Right? So you can't say, well, I'm a boss, I'm just do my job. I never know say it is wrong. I never know say I'm not supposed to do it. Ignorance of the law is still no excuse. There is no way you can say you never know. Before you take public office, you had to have knowledge of the Constitution, right? Record and transparency. All criminal proceedings shall be recorded and publicly reviewable. Secret proceedings are prohibited, and we talk about this in the court section and the judicial section as well. No immunity doctrine. No office, position, or status grants immunity from investigation, prosecution, or judgment. Any attempt to assert immunity is void. Enforcement of penalties. Penalties shall be enforced only through lawful process. Enforcement shall comply with recorded orders, defined authority, and unlawful enforcement is void. And the principle behind this is that the criminal system shall ensure equality before the law, accountability of all persons, higher responsibility for authority holders, prohibition of immunity, and protection of the Constitution above all persons. Right? If we have the rule of law should be at the top. It is the ceiling of conduct, right? We cannot have no form or section of society that is not being held to the high standard of the law. Now, here is another important section defining the enumerations of crimes, right? So this is a listing of different crimes that can be committed. If you don't know that a crime exists, how can you violate it, right? This article defines prohibited conduct as crimes under this Constitution. Crimes shall be limited to acts causing harm, threat of harm, or violation of defined constitutional duties. General rule: a person commits a crime where an act is performed and the act causes harm, risk of harm, or violates a clear prohibition. No act shall be criminal unless defined in this article. Crimes against the person. Assault, and that means intentional act of creating fear or fear of immediate harm. Battery, intentional or reckless physical harm to another. Serious injury, harm causing lasting or severe bodily damage. homicide, unlawful causing of death, negligent harm, failure to act with reasonable care resulting in injury, coercion, forcing action through threat or intimidation, unlawful detention means restricting movement without lawful authority, right? So that is crimes against the person. Crimes against property have theft, which is obviously the taking of property without consent, fraud, obtaining value through deception, damage to property is destruction or impairment of another's property, unlawful seizure, which is the taking or holding property without lawful basis, trespass, which is entering or remaining on property without permission. Crimes against public order, we have a listing here as well. Crimes against justice, this is an interesting one. Perjury, knowingly giving false testimony. Now, we cover part of this before, you know. Perjury is not really strictly enforced in Jamaica. A lot of times people will tell lie. People will tell lie on others, right? In court and outside of court, recorded, and you have evidence of it, and the court will not punish it. Not on its own motion. You have to be pushing and pressing for the court to even, take notice of it, right? Action now say, what about slander or libel? We're going to get to that. So knowingly giving false testimony is perjury, right? Evidence tampering, which means altering, destroying, or concealing evidence. Obstruction of justice, which is interfering with lawful proceedings. Failure to record. Omission of required official recording where mandated, right? Crimes by... So those that you're listing, action now, JA, those are civil matters per se. They are not necessarily criminal. So that is, you can consider crimes against the person, right? So we're gonna add those up in the person section. Crimes by public servants. Abuse of authority, which is the use of position beyond lawful limits. Failure of duty. Refusal or neglect to perform lawful obligation. Concealment, which is hiding required public records or actions. Misuse of public resources, which is the use of public property for unauthorized purposes, right? Crimes by public officials, which is the enforcement arm. Unlawful stop, got unlawful search, excessive force, fabrication of evidence, suppression of evidence, and unlawful detention. We have crimes against administrators, giving unlawful orders, abuse of command, and failure to prevent. Economic crimes, we have exploitation, unfair extraction of labor or value. Artificial scarcity, restricting supply to manipulate value. Right, we talk about this where we have an industry where you have monopoly going on, and then you have all of a sudden the price start go up for things, and all of these different artificial scarcity situations that people can't control, right? We have to have a mechanism to punish those crimes. Market manipulation, which is interfering with the fair exchange. Financial deception, misleading financial conduct causing loss, right? Road and transport crimes. Reckless operation, right? Like drinking and driving. Gross non-compliance. Operation of unsafe vehicle creating risk. Evasion of regulation. Deliberate avoidance of lawful road regulation, right? Customs and border crimes. Importation of prohibited items. False declaration. Evasion of lawful trade tax. Intelligence and surveillance crime. So here we have pretty much almost 14 classes of crimes, that we can have. And of course, these can be expanded. But as you can see, we don't need 500 pages to describe the different types of crimes that one can commit. We simply need to list them and list what exactly that crime is. Right? Once we have this kind of conduct that is described here, it is going to fall into one of these categories, no matter what. Right? So this creates a clear responsibility of people to know that this is a crime or that is a crime. It is not rocket science. You don't need to read 500 pages for that. Right? Price gouging. Yeah, that's a part of market manipulation. All right, so the principle here is the criminal law shall ensure clear definition of prohibited conduct, limitation of criminal categories, focus on harm and accountability, and equal application to all persons. All right, so once it is listed and it falls into any category, even if, for example, it says attempt, an act taken towards committing a crime, right? As long as it is something that can be considered an attempt to do something, right? Again, remember, it has to be proven. So it's not like somebody just accuse you, say you attempted to do something and ray. It still has to go through the evidentiary process. But this is just the plain definition of what each act is. So that way, nobody is confused. Right? Now here is, let me pause here for a second. Here we have criminal penalties, which is penalties and punishment for those convicted of crimes. This is a section that I've been holding off on for quite a while. Right? And this section highlights what if we're going to get rid of prisons, right? There are certain individuals that we do not want in our society. We want to either keep them out or get rid of them. Right? So, this is going to be possibly disturbing to some people. So, may I make sure I give you a warning early. Right? So, here are possible penalties for punishment of crimes. Right? And again, this is based on some of the submissions that I've received privately. And again, some of the individuals don't want their names up there. So here we have a section for criminal penalties, which are penalties and punishment for those convicted of crimes. The purpose of this article, this article defines penalties and punishment for those who have been convicted after due process of committing crimes. The people, if unsatisfied with the punishment imposed by the court, have veto and substitution power to institute a different punishment they see fit by public vote. Restricted public duty, section 2. 1 year minimum. Restricted public duty is the punishment of working on daily tasks within Jamaica without pay. This punishment is intended to restore and rebuild the nation in a productive way. The only entitlement attached to this punishment is food, prison uniform, and shelter. Right? So, we talked about this before. Instead of putting people in jail and have them sitting there and doing foolishness, we would put them to work in our society. Clean up the road, fix the pothole them, XYZ, right? Section 3, removal of private parts. The removal of a private part meant the removal of the private part. This punishment is reserved only for private part crimes. A surgeon or qualified professional will carry out this task as humanely as possible. This punishment is also paired with restricted public duty after recovery. So after this get removed, they still have to do public duty, where they would be placed to work for society over a period of time. 1 year minimum. Right? So once they commit a private organ crime, they will not be able to do that again, ever. Right? All right. Section 4, removal of limb, arm or leg. The removal of a limb is a possible punishment for violent robbery, violent assault, violent attempted unaliving or unaliving. A surgeon or qualified professional will carry out this task as humanely as possible. This punishment is also paired with restricted public duty after recovery. It would be the same thing for a woman. Same thing for a woman. Right? La la la. All right. Finger crushed by hammer. The punishment of finger crushed by hammer is a possible punishment for robbery or theft. Hanging by the neck in the town square. The punishment of hanging by the neck in the town square is a punishment for convicted murderers, serial killers, or anyone who takes the life of another intentionally. Lifetime servitude of restricted public duty. The punishment of lifetime servitude of restricted public duty is a punishment for convicted fraudsters, scammers, swindlers, and public officials who misuse their office. And those are the punishments we have thus far under criminal punishments. If you would like to suggest something, you can drop it in the comment if it is not restricted. Or you can send it on VOJ and we will incorporate it. See? So, you know, I think I think this is a great deterrent for criminal activity. You know, that way you can't come out and do the same thing. Right? And not only that, you know, the final power to institute any of these punishments rests with the people. So if the people say, no, we don't like that judgment that was given, right? Then the people can veto that order or that judgment of the court and substitute a different penalty to be carried out for that crime. Holistic, lawful, greetings. So, you know, if we have clear penalties, right, and we remove the discretion or we limit the discretion of the court to only certain things that we authorize, then I am almost, I would say I am 98% sure, just to give a little room, I am 98% sure this would eliminate crime in all forms. All forms, right? Because if we start having these kind of penalties, we won't even have the criminals to come back. You know, especially the ones that are going out there unaliving people, right? And for those who do egregious things, you literally get an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Again, some of them, you know, you may say it sounds excessive, but when you think about the act that is carried out and the punishment, they are rather proportional to the criminal act, right? So this is what we have so far. We're still taking suggestions. If you have any other punishment you would like to add to this section, feel free, as well as any other section that you feel you may want to add something to. We can definitely modify it as long as it is neutral and it is not gender specific, etc., etc. Right? So that way we can have a truly civilized and fair society. Now, there is another section that is coming. We talked about this before. We talked about the education system earlier. There is another section that we are drafting. Would it authorize us to do a citizen's arrest if we have evidence to support the arrest? No. We can do a complaint with the evidence, and then the parish commander or his deputy would have to act on every single complaint, right? We don't want to put anyone in danger. So we don't want to bring about citizens' arrest, because even if we're armed, you know, we don't want that kind of confrontation. So to take people out of harm's way, it is better to be able to make a complaint and know that it is 100% enforceable. If they don't act, remember, you know, part of this is in the law, where once they have a responsibility, right, and they fail to prevent unlawful conduct, then it is the authority themselves who would become implicated. So now this is an incentive for public servants to do their job. Literally, if you don't do your job, you have a very severe penalty coming your way. Right? So that would resolve that issue. Because again, we would have a public record system that would not be able to be modified by any of the officials. Right? You can submit things all you want, but nobody can remove anything. Nobody can modify nor remove. Right? So that would keep everybody honest, and that would also keep everybody in check. So nobody have no feeling or thinking that just because they are a public official, certain things don't apply to them. No such thing. Right? So, any questions on the constitutional draft so far? Last time we talked about customs as well. You know, how we would redefine and reorganize customs and border protection. There is a section, oh yes, there's a section that is coming up. We're going to talk about national mandatory training for children and optional training for adults, right? Where we would have defensive training in schools so that children would grow up with combat abilities, right? So we would not be a defenseless nation. We would not, and this would also combat the reliance on an army, right? If we have an armed nation, we don't need a standing army. We just need a few defensive personnel monitoring the coastlines and monitoring, you know, the different areas where we could be possibly vulnerable. If we have an armed and a trained nation, we eliminate anybody's thinking of, you know, trying to invade, right? Yeah, man, mandatory teaching in the schools is already ingrained in the education sector, right? Mandatory constitutional learning. Let's see what section that is. Education is Article 10. Let's see, Article 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So in Article 10, we have under civic and legal education, here we have all students shall be taught the Constitution of Jamaica, the rights and duties of citizens, and the structure of government. This is an entire section by itself. Even though we have a curriculum up here, that has to be included, right? This section under civic and legal education is a section by itself, right? Yeah, man, definitely use up the submission form. Again, that is on voiceofjamaica.com. You click on the first post that says new constitution, and you have the submission form right here. If you leave a message in here stating that you don't want the submission to be posted, that will also be honored, and we won't post your suggestions on here. But if you don't leave the suggestion that you don't want, your because again, it's I'm not posting anybody's full name. If you notice, I block out the names on here, right? I block out the names. Unless you use an alias, I'll use the alias. But if you have a name, I will block out your full name. So that way, we don't have anyone's identity just out there like that, right? Do we do entertainment? No, we don't have that as a law. We're talking about laws now, right? So we don't have any holidays or anything like that embedded in there, but we can, you know, put in different things. Like we can come up with our own national events. We can come up with competitions. We can come up with, you know, holidays and things like that. Submit your suggestions, and we will incorporate them as long as they are neutral. Oh, nuisance caused by entertainment. Nuisance caused by entertainment. No, well, that is a part of, I think that is in there, you know. I believe so, but that would be, well, let me see. Let's go back to the topics up here. Table of contents. You know, I don't think that is in there, you know. Oh yes, you know, there are designated sections for public entertainment. Right. I do remember earlier on in constitutional drafting, there is a section in there that talks about, you know, designated spaces where you would not interfere, you know, with people trying to sleep or people trying to not hear boogie yaga music or whatever. Yes, that is ingrained. That is ingrained. I'm not sure of the actual section right now, but it is ingrained in there. Right? There are some other definitions that were added. Let me see if I can find one. So we have judicial, judge, law, liable, national command, oath. So we added the definition for an oath. The word oath means a declaration of obedience and submission to the will of an authority for the purpose of exercising a specific duty under defined conditions, right? And then we have constitutional oath. Where is it? Constitutional oath. Here we go. We have constitutional oath defined. The term constitutional oath means an oath taken to give full allegiance, obedience, and respect to this constitution, unless revoked, retracted, or made inactive by reason of exit or removal of office. No other oath shall be taken, and if any other such oath exists, it shall be null and void during ascension to any constitutional or lawful office. Anyone found to have a separate active oath while a constitutional officer or public servant shall be guilty of treason and face criminal penalties. Right? So this is offenses, fall under offenses of public officials, right? And this can literally get you a lifetime punishment of public servitude. So, no secondary oath and no secret oath, no private oath, none of that. Right? What else we got? So we have the parish court special division. Do we have a fee schedule for this? No. No. Remember, we are trying to eliminate. We are trying to eliminate the conversion of civil to criminal. We're trying to also eliminate corruption. So we don't have a fee schedule necessarily. For example, what we call it, there are certain traffic offenses where if you don't fix your car, right? Let's say you have a headlight that is out, right? If one headlight is out, then that would be a warning, right? Right. And the traffic enforcement division, they don't have any kind of arrest powers. They can only issue warnings and tickets. So you get a warning to fix. You get 30 days to fix your car. You fix your headlight or fix whatever is broken on your car. After the 30 days, if you are detected to still not have fixed that item and you're still on the road, then you would get a penalty, right? And that would then be a monetary penalty. Then you would not be able to get gas, that kind of thing. But it is not something that would land you in jail, like what currently happens now. If you don't have the money and you got a court, them throw you in a jail. That would not be a criminal offense in traffic matters, right? And so we've been through the Special People's Court already, which is the Special People's Court means a court specially established as the case may be and as needed, forming a temporary tribunal consisting of 9 random and varying non-elected citizens of the public of different professions for the sole purpose of hearing the case against public officials or government agents and determining the punishment fitting for any convictions, as the case may be. This court shall sit and hear cases in the parish court civil division. Right? So if we have a case against a public official, it would not be tried by a regular judge. It would literally be like a jury. Like people from all over the island would be selected. They come in and they judge the matter according to the Constitution. Right? So this way, nobody have any chance of getting away with anything. Right? Just because you know somebody or you know a set of people, that will not get you out of anything under this Constitution. Right? Everything else, we have the judges rotating and random. So that way we don't have any kind of corruption flowing from anywhere. Right? Rights. The word rights means any enjoyment of action that causes no harm to person, artificial entity, property, or interest. Such inherent right of a person, written or unwritten, or privilege granted to an artificial entity, is recognized under this Constitution, whether in use or dormant, at any given time, as the case may be. Rights are activated and in force and effect at all times. Right? So all of these definitions are before you even get to the actual sections of the Constitution. So there is no question, there is no ambiguity, there is no possibility of you claiming, "Me never know." All the words are there. Right? All the words are there. So, again, if you have any suggestions, you can go ahead and make your suggestions on voiceofjamaica.com. You click on the first post, which is New Constitution, and you have this form right here. You can fill out and submit your suggestions, and they will be reviewed. And if If we can make them neutral, then they will end up in the constitutional draft, right? Once we complete the other few sections, I think we should be good to go. We're going to finalize, we're going to polish up, we're going to complete the draft, and then it is going to be there for, you know, again, still for suggestions, still for anything that we may need to add to the draft. And then once everyone is good, it is going to be promoted so that everyone can have access to it, everyone can be aware that it's there, and then we move on to stage 2. Still, I cannot unveil stage 2 just yet, but it is coming. It is coming. LB, I was reading the draft, looked up and saw my hairs and I smiled. Salute. Yeah, man, big up yourself. I am glad, you know, I am happy to be a part of this as well. You know, and we talked about this earlier. We talked about this earlier in constitutional drafting. This is something that is monumental. There's nothing like this. Nothing like this. Right? We the people have a chance right now to be a part of a history we are creating. I mean, just you being here, you know, just you being present during this moment. When the time comes and something like this becomes the shaping point of our society, you can say, this was a part of my era. If you participated, this is something that you can tell your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, you can pass on as a legacy, right? This is something, mark my words, when the time comes, we all are going to look back at this time and we're going to say, wow, we actually did it. And the world is going to follow. Actually, them still a report the live. It looked like the appeal went through. Anyways, this is a time we're going to look back and we're going to be proud to be a part of this generation that changed the trajectory of colonial rule. Imagine we are the generation that brings peace. We are the generation that brings about a nation of people that are truly proud to be in Jamaica. Not just being Jamaican, but to be a Jamaican in Jamaica. Right? This is going to propel things way beyond what we can imagine right now. It will be the example. You see, just like how the United States over the years became an example for other nations to do certain things, we can do that as well. And we can surpass that because of what we're doing. So, take an active role, take an active chance, look at the constitutional draft, see what you can contribute. Again, you don't have to be putting in big things, you don't have to be, you know, a full hardcore individual trying to, you know, see what you can add to every section. One cocoa full basket, right? One cocoa full basket. If it wasn't for everyone else who is contributing, we wouldn't have gotten this far. We still have a ways to go, you know, but right now we're at a good place and we can still use more suggestions, right? So that being said, let us talk about traffic tickets. You know, it never seems to never get old. Clap on yourselves. Exactly. It seems to never get old that, you know, there are people out there who have never even come across my page. There are people out there who have suffered greatly because they are getting so many tickets. Can you imagine? Elections are mentioned in there. Elections are mentioned in the draft, and they are specific. They are direct elections. They are not representative elections. So you can go in and you can check out that. When we talk about parish commanders and national commanders and so forth. Every major decision that happens is by election of the public, right? Kim, yeah man, lawful. Thank you. So we have so many individuals out there who are suffering because of traffic tickets. Imagine you are making, let's say you are making $50,000 a month, right? $50,000 a month you make. And you get 2 tickets for $20,000. $10,000 for one, $10,000 for another one. That is more than 30% of what you make. More than 30% you are paying in fees. If you don't go to court and if you don't win. And I find that to be very egregious. Not only are these things hindering even sometimes lawful citizens, because some people are there and even though they know they are innocent, they don't want to go to court. So they plead. Either them plead guilty or Congress want to come up. Either them plead guilty or them pay the ticket. Right? And it is not good. It is not a good place to be. Congress.
Yeah, I just want to ask what's the topic of the night?
Well, we were doing constitutional drafting earlier. Now we're talking about traffic and court.
Okay, because I only did want to ask you one question still.
Yeah.
If a statutory instrument was indicated from outside the laws and the structure of a company, right? Or of a nation, right?
Mm-hmm.
What type of powers that statutory instrument have to order that sovereign nation to rule their own people?
We have to have some foundation there because what you are describing, you have to set the precedence before you ask the question. So when you say a sovereign nation, you have to be a little bit more clear because a sovereign nation doesn't have any ties with any other nation.
Alright, why am I say a sovereign nation? Because remember, we already have Tainos, then we'd have Spain colonize us, right? But we didn't learn too much of Spanish history, so we will bypass the Spanish history and come to English, right? So in order for we to learn and educate ourselves, it's all about the Constitution, right? So the Constitution is made by the Queen Magistrate, right? And it's from a foreign land. It's not from our land,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it stated each territories. So basically, it will say you conquer here, and then I order you to do something on my behalf.
Mm-hmm.
Not behalf of the people that you conquered, only on my behalf. So
Right.
what I'm saying, if Jamaica wasn't a profitable estate or a profitable sovereign nation, how can a person or a corporation outside of that boundary lawfully put an effect order to say you should govern this, either parliamentarian monarchy or a democratic monarchy? because when I read the Constitution, it state the word order. It doesn't mean it represent for the people of the land. It mean order from the Queen Magistrate.
Right.
So it's not for the people them of the land. It's for
Right.
the corporation Jamaica where them create then. Put it in
Right.
that sense. So basically the parliamentarian we have is monarchy. It's a monarchy parliament. In the US they have a democratic monarchy. You see it? So me I try to understand how can a constitution construct by a outside nation to rule our nation, and it's still written in words order. How can that work?
It works because two things. Two things here. The first one is the crown, which is the British rulers or the British conquerors. They are claiming that they acquire this land and the people upon it by conquest and war. Right? That is how they claim this realm. This is what they call it, the realm over Yasso. Jamaica realm, them a claim it as their colony because them conquer it over conquest and war from the Spanish or from Spain. Right? And when them so-called conquer Spain, Spain sign something and say, okay, we are going to just leave you alone because, and again, we covered this last time, but you probably wasn't here. When them and they never really conquer Spain, It's just that Spain never have the kind of manpower and the force where the British them bring over here. So Spain just say, all right, here we go, and we don't want the violence, We will just leave you alone. If you want to go in and go do whatever you want to do, just don't kill half of people, send them back, make them go on back into the ocean and come back to we. Right? That's how Spain angle it. Because the British were known to be savages. Not only savages, they brought a lot of diseases with them. So when they acclaim conquest, at that time it was an uncivilized time. And when what they call civility, when we talk about civilization or bringing civilization to an area, it is not necessarily to take people out of bushes and them kind of something. They are trying to impose their system of law and their system of governance on that people. Now, we not talk much about the Spanish rule, and we not bring up the documents them just yet. I don't know if people really interested in knowing how far back this thing goes, right? But the Taino people, the Red Ware people, and the so-called Arawaks, they already had their system of governance and rule. They already had technology. They already had kingdoms. They already had buildings. They already had law. They already had all of this. But you see, because the British them couldn't give them anything what them want, there was nothing to trade. That is why them decide to them are going to go to war, so that they can take away everything and then offer the little bit back to some of the people them to say, hey, we are going to civilize you now after we conquer you. So it is not through a legal process or anything civilized how the British are claiming any kind of rule over Jamaica or any other colony. It is just simply the fact that they had the firepower and they had the willpower to just slaughter and murder and do everything with them want to do until people start submit and say, yo, me no want dead. All right, we got planned. We got to do this, we got to do that. Now, why is it relevant today? Because of the indoctrination. It only takes 2 generations. It takes 2 generations to corrupt a people. So when them start from the 14, well, the Spanish, they were not interested in controlling the entire island. They just wanted to have a trade route. That is really what they wanted. So they didn't conquer the island. It is the British that came and started doing all of these disasters. So Spain, them a thief. Them first start extract out all of the gold, all of the treasure, what them call treasure, all of them things that are what them really they come here for. But when them reach and them realize that the people them did a grow cane and banana and all them something they already, them say, yo, all right, we can use this. Them have all kind of food source so we can grow in a Europe. All right, boom. We make this a trade route. That's what that was all about. Then they come discover nothing and come bring the machinery and all them something there. All they were doing was just extracting out all of the wealth, which they are still doing to this day. So, when we talk about legislations and the constitutions and all of that, the only reason the rule has continued this long is because they corrupted 2 generations, and from that time until now, the people have not had the idea to craft their own constitutions. Even the great America right now, America does not necessarily have a native constitution. They use the British colonial documents as their foundation to create their constitutions. And that is why, even in America, you will still have all of these egregious things going on, even though they are over 400 years old. Right? So, until the people actually create a constitution by themselves, basically the British still are going to have a foothold somewhere.
But when me not this me not try to understand. When that mean basically from 1962 to now, we were never independent.
No.
So within that said, and the Jamaican people are more educated now. Like some of them that was in the 90s are more educated now, right? And
Not
there would be
necessarily.
like 40% of the population that is educated right now, right?
When you say
So
educated, what are you talking about?
me meaning about the constitution.
No, sir.
Because most of them some of would have a basic knowledge of what the constitution is. So I am saying, if you see a starting of a document said order, that's all me I say. No, why they don't get the access to read the constitution? They might have phone, but why they don't get the access to read the constitution itself? It said order in council. That's somebody demanding you to do something. Demanding you to do something, and it doesn't state it for one. It said Caribbean and North Atlantic territories.
Right. So,
You see me?
but why you try, like you try ask why more people don't realize this is going on?
Yeah, why more people not realize that this is just a colonizing instrument that parliamentarian monarchy used to mislead the people or to dominate the people for the crown itself.
All right. Here is a simple
Because
question.
it said right here, lead before parliament. You understand? And then it named some sections.
Right.
You understand me? But really and truly, the document was drafted from the 6th of August.
Right. But the question is this. Let's say people knew this. What do you think they would do?
Who would like people? Alright, because the people it's public knowledge where people can access it, right?
Right.
It's public knowledge, but the people don't have an understanding of the written word.
Right.
You understand? So the moment them get an understanding of the written word, then they're gonna say to themselves, why we under this monarchy?
Right. And then what?
Because we still don't know that we are underneath a monarchy because of this instrument from 1550, 1962 to 1962 document. You understand?
Yeah, me get that, but I am saying though, let's say we educate Jamaica about this, then what?
We grafted our own constitution first and foremost in Jamaica. I realized there is a Christian. So basically, you can start it off the commandments, 10 commandments. Start to think of try to graph up one from off the 10 commandments. Right? You understand? Get your own. We should get it together where we can graph our own constitution and return back to our sovereign nation.
Big
Because
bag.
according to these documents that presented is an order. No, you can't say a person late to something that is new to them. They are just caught catching up on it.
Yeah, look on the screen.
I'm saying it. Constitution.
Exactly what you describe is what we have been doing. That's what we call constitutional drafting.
Alright. This yeah. Continue.
So I have been educating for the past year, and we started constitutional drafting 2.5 months ago. So we are creating, you joined a little bit late, so you didn't realize what we were doing earlier, but we already started drafting the constitution, and this constitution is different from every other constitution around the world. In the sense that not only is it a constitution, but it also defines the rights and freedoms, but it also puts penalties for any violations of the constitution, and it lays out the entire body of law in a single document. So we will no longer have acts of parliament. We will no longer have parliamentary sessions doing foolishness and creating laws arbitrarily and all them something. This will be the single body of law, the single body of constitutional protections, single body of recognition, and the single body of what would be used in our court systems to punish crimes.
So when would it be how can it be implemented and remove the present constitution?
So that is going to be stage 3, but we're at stage 1. We're still at drafting session. And I want to make sure you also have access to this, because this is a public document. This is not something that is just within a specific group. If you go to voiceofjamaica.com, I'm going to show you how to access this document if you so choose. This is voiceofjamaica.com. If you scroll down, the very first post is called New Constitution. When you click on this, you have the option to download the constitutional draft, and we also have the Declaration of Independence draft. So the document we're looking at here is the constitutional draft. All right, so again, it is not a 1,500 page document. Right now it is only 297 pages. And it is because we have included almost every single aspect of law that we can find and find useful. And we have redefined that into simple terms. Let me give you an example. Let us look at just one section so I can show you what we're talking about. Here we have this disaster management and national response. This is only, let us count the pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, only 4 pages. Now, which act of parliament do you currently see with 4 pages that describes what they would do within that act? Not one.
None.
Right. So what we have done is we have changed everything from a legal perspective into clear English. So nobody is going to sit and read any of this and say, me don't even know what them attack say, me don't know what them word I mean, me don't know this, me don't know that. Everything is written in plain English and plain direction. So nobody can claim ignorance.
So if it become the country's constitution that enacted to everyone, That's the stage you're reaching now.
No, we are currently at the drafting stage. There are 3 stages. We're at stage 1. I cannot tell you how we're going to ultimately make this the official document that is going to be reformed into our constitution as yet, because that would be premature. First, we must complete the document before we start taking or revealing the additional steps. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Cause I was saying like, all of us could like for this and could have create a sovereign wealth fund for, this body of you know
Yeah, man. Trust me, almost everything that you can think of that would benefit the nation, you don't have to read through the document. You can just go. These are the table of contents. You can just look through the table of contents for anything that interests you and go down to that section and you can see what is described in it.
Alright. So basically then, so and birth registration and all of them stuff there is in it too as well, and yeah, alright. I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna read it still because we need something like this. Alright, wait till I read it first. I'm gonna get a
Right.
full scope of what taking place before I can say we need something like this. But glad me reach up on some thinkers that is thinking exactly like how I'm thinking. Oh, alright.
Yeah, man,
And,
you
and,
find the tribe,
and it's
man.
not just thinkers as well, they're realistic person because they think of it and now they have it on paper in front of me. So I appreciate it. Yeah. Watch your face, eh? How for face that? We love this.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
man.
see. Yeah, man. Love
Yeah,
this,
man. So, yeah, man, review it. And if you have any input, we also have a section there below the draft, as you can see here, where you can make suggestions. If you want to add something to it, you can submit the suggestion here. And you can also review the suggestions that were made by others so
So
far.
my general, like how your people them can do things like this. Why not create a payment platform
No.
like similar, not even, me mean like PayPal, meaning we can use in Jamaica like WeChat. You know what I say? Because we are sometimes we are get restrict from access to certain things.
Oh,
Why we can like for 14 parish, we know we have this payment method for with the Jamaican currency. You understand? So every shipping, every what I say?
right.
Instead I would have use a next medium, we use a local one. We know we have link, but sometimes it not function good. We know we have like wise, but sometimes that not function good. But we don't need a Jamaican one. You understand me? Me
Yeah,
not
man.
talk crypto token, cause me know when Jamaica hear crypto, them go buzz. This is different, a payment medium. We can
Well,
access each card or,
that is something that would come later. This has to come first.
So me can put my suggestion this, alright? This, alright?
Yeah, man. Just put your
Alright,
name and whatever or an alias, and you put whatever the suggestion is, and you
yeah.
hit submit.
Alright, so me go create a digital token later. Big up on yourself, everybody. Thanks for thanks for having me upon this, and right now me go check out the voice of Jamaica, cause me a part of the voice, so my
Yeah, you
voice
see
have to
it.
be heard. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
man. Big up yourself. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, man. Respect.
Yeah, man. Respect. Cool. All right. We had someone else who wanted to come up. Uh, Nature. Nature, you are up. Nature, lawful. All right. Look like that was a mistake. So we will continue. La, la. Sheikh's Employment Agency. We don't really allow advertising over here, you know. You see me? So please refrain from trying to advertise in the comment section. We already have enough people reporting the live, so we don't want to have any additional strikes that they will possibly restrict our live sessions going forward. See? So please restrain yourself from advertising. All right. So yeah, so we have this problem of tickets, right? Some of them, you know, are purportedly justified, and some of them, they are malicious. They are just people having a bad day, or people just decide to, yeah, get a ticket for whatever reason. Whether it be bad mind, whether it be a show of authority, showing up a tail, showing up whatever, right? And you see, because the agents, them love come over here, so, and them love come report the live. Today we have a special gem. Grab on a pen and on a paper. It is gem time. I can only repeat something once. You can't keep on repeating. See? Grab on a pen and on a paper. It's time to learn something. Possibly. Right. Possibly learn something new. See? Alright. So many of us know that a ticket is what is called a transformative document. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Many of us have come to know that a ticket that is issued in regards to a so-called traffic violation is a transformative document, meaning it starts out as a demand for payment, and when you don't pay, the date that is on the ticket for court and the listed court, which is also not listed. Now really going to get into that still. When that court date comes, the ticket is transformed into a summons. Now it is very clever, you know. This is used all over the world. This is not isolated to Jamaica. But the ticket is a transforming document. It is a piece of paper that, based on your response, based on your performance, it either does something now or it does something later. It is a compelling of you to do something, or a request. It is a request that you do something. Now, the question for us is this. And we asked this question last year as well. The question is a ticket a civil instrument or is it a criminal instrument? Right? And how does it become a criminal instrument? If it is asking for money, if it is begging, if it is exploiting, how does it become now an instrument of criminality? Ready? Is any police ticket here? Ticket them back. TikTok police, lawful, welcome. Now, if a ticket becomes a summons 30 days or more later from the date of issuance, right? Isn't that an arrest without warrant? Let us bring up the Constabulary Force Act, because we're going to uncover a few things. So, we're going to cover a few things before we get to that point. All right? The first thing we're going to cover is the Constabulary Force Act, Section 4. We talked about this last time, right? This is the oath of office. All right? Lawful, welcome. The oath of office says the constable or this person who is desiring to be a constable, they swear. Swear is another word for allegiance. You are submitting to the authority to grant you something, some privilege or some office. Right? You swear that I will well and duly serve our sovereign lady the queen. Just like we were talking about a while ago. This individual is not swearing to the people of Jamaica. They are swearing to the queen, a foreign entity. Right? And I say in the office of. It says here insert the description of the office. So we have the different offices listed up here. So it's the office of officer or sub-officer or constable. You cannot be all three. You can only be one. So in the office of, most likely it is a constable that is stopping you on the road. So office of constable. It says without favor or affection, malice or ill will. Right? Ill will is very important. Ill will is an intent, your will, that is corrupted. Right? So all of these talk about basically bad mind. Right? It is something that is described as something that is unfavorable someone else is doing. Right? But ill will is a very critical piece that is in this oath. So ill will also means you cannot lie. Right? It says without favor or affection, malice or ill will. So without lying, and I will see and cause her majesty's peace to be kept. Right? You cannot keep the peace by lying. All right. All right. So we all agree that ill will is a part of lying, or lying is a part of ill will. Right? Okay. So let us go down here so again. We passed section 13 long time ago. We have to come back to it because we have to come full circle. Section 13 says what? But it shall not be lawful to employ any member of the force in the service of any civil process. Right? What is a civil process? A civil process is anything that is not criminal. So anything the police do, if it is not criminal, it says it shall not be lawful. That is what it says. This is the Constabulary Force Act, right? So the question is, if a ticket is issued, right, and the ticket is not a criminal instrument when it is issued, isn't that a civil process? From last year, may I tell you no? And we have been over this many times, but I have to break it down in different ways so you can get it. If a ticket is issued for a crime, because that is what the officer is claiming, you committed a crime, right? What is the process? What is the process? Lawful investment, welcome. What is the process of what the constable should do if someone is found committing a crime? Let us look at section 15 here. Section 15 says what? It shall be lawful for any constable without warrant to apprehend any person found committing any offense punishable upon indictment or summary conviction, and to take him forthwith before a justice who shall inquire into the circumstances of the alleged offense. You see what I say? Alleged offense. So the word of the constable is not taken as true initially. This is the Constabulary Force Act. So when you go in front of a judge and the constable just set the inside of the story and the judge is going to rule on that, you can object and demand a fair trial, a fair hearing by an independent and impartial court. The Constabulary Force Act itself says the offense is alleged. It never says circumstances of the offense, because we know the police then can lie too. All of we can lie. Every one of us are capable of lying. Right? But if them call me criminal, that's a defamation of character because I was not tried or convicted. Exactly. A criminal is someone who was convicted in a court, not someone who you think committed a crime. It is only a court that can determine whether or not a crime was actually committed, right? So, you shall bring the individual forthwith before a justice who shall inquire into the circumstances of the alleged offense, and either commit the offender to the nearest jail, prison, or lockup to be thereafter dealt with according to law, or grant that person bail in accordance with the Bail Act. So the Constabulary Force Act already states what the constable can do if they see you committing an offense or a crime. Nowhere in here does it talk about no ticket. Now, I know there are people out there who are going to say, well, the Road Traffic Act is a special legislation that gives the Constabulary Force the power to issue tickets. Anyways, we soon get to that. It says, any warrant lawfully issued. So here they talk about arrest by warrant, right? We know so the constable them out the road, them not have no warrant. Them just out there fishing. Powers of search. Any constable may search any person on board any ship or boat within the limits of the island. So this is talk about seatings, right? Further powers to apprehend without warrant. It shall be lawful for any constable to apprehend without warrant any person known or suspected to be carrying unlawful possession of drugs. Any person what? Known or suspected of carrying these things. How can you suspect someone of carrying something? It means you have prior information. It cannot be by looking at someone. It cannot be by looking. You can't suspect someone of having something unlawful by looking at them. You have to have information. 19. It shall be lawful for any constable without warrant to stop any vehicle suspected to be carrying stolen goods or drugs or lottery. Right? So it tells you what you must suspect. So there is no way you can look at a car traveling down the street and say, yes, them have something in it. We have to grab them. Impossible. Impossible. Cannot happen. This is the power of the police to tell people to move on and keep moving. This is only if you are creating a congestion, if you are stopping the flow of the public. Stopping the flow of the public, whether by car or by foot. This has nothing to do with police just see until they say, hey, keep on moving, you can't stand up yourself. The police does not have that power. Not under the Constabulary Force Act. Here is where many people get confused. It shall be lawful for any constable in uniform to control traffic and any person disobeying instructions given or any signal, whether orally or by hand or mechanical device, commits an offense. The power to control traffic is not a stop and search mandate. But anyways, let us get back to our point. We're gone too far. So as you can see, if the police says that you commit an offense, they are not supposed to issue a ticket, because if they are issuing a ticket, that is now a civil process if it is not directing you to go to court. Let me say that again. A ticket is a civil process if it is not directing you to go to the court, because that is what the constabulary force authorizes the constable to do. The ticket does not become a criminal document until it expires. Until you don't pay, that is when they are considering it to be a criminal matter. This is why you can't go to court before the time. This is why you can't ask the court nothing, because the court by law cannot accept any of those tickets until the time and date on the ticket arises. But here is another caveat. Here is another caveat. When a ticket is issued, did you know that you can file a claim in court, in the Supreme Court, right away? You can file a claim in the Supreme Court before it becomes a criminal process. I bet you didn't know that. Because the matter is not yet within the court. If you have a matter in the court already, you cannot petition the Supreme Court. You have to go through the lawful process. But when you get a ticket and it has a monetary value on it, asking you to pay, that is an attempted violation of your right to your property. That is malicious prosecution. Because there is no way any criminal can pay their way out of the law. King says, civil proceedings cannot result in jail time. Are you sure? Are you sure? Because I can certainly defeat that in one sentence. Contempt of court. You just lose. You can be found in criminal contempt of court in a civil matter. And you can go to jail. So anyways, as I said, when you have a ticket that is issued, that ticket is civil until it expires. And once it is expired, it is now considered a criminal complaint, a criminal information sheet. And that is when it can now be processed and sent to the court. But you can intercept the civil request for monies if you can attach it to a constitutional violation. All tickets are civil unless we're talking about through process. There is no such thing as through process. I mean due process. All tickets are civil processes until it expires. It becomes a criminal information sheet. You cannot pay your way out of a crime. Exactly. Even in family court, non-payment can land you in jail. Absolutely. Absolutely. They can hold you in criminal contempt. But only if you don't know that you can demand a contempt hearing. And then they would have to give you due process, full due process, before depriving you of any rights. How long do you have to process this usually? It is only because you ask, you know. You know, we don't discuss these matters on the live. You have all the way up to the day before the ticket expires to file a claim in the Supreme Court. Once you file the claim in the Supreme Court, something rather interesting happens, but I cannot tell you. As Mr. Dunn would say, these things are not hard, you know, it just takes persistence. Every time you fail, it's just like, yeah, try. It's like you go through one bush and you have a machete. Yeah, chop. One time, you chop on one stone and your hand vibrate and you say, yo, Jano Star. When you chop and go through again, are you going to meet up on the same stone? No, but you're going to be a little bit more cautious not to be chopping stones. Right? So each time you go through the court system and you gain a little knowledge, write it down. Replay it in your head. Check again and see what really go on this. What really are going on here? So how do I internalize this? How do I change these circumstances? Ask yourself these questions, because once you go through 1 and 2 times, you know, now you're going to start expecting. You know what is coming, right? So now you're going to change your trajectory and you're going to say, all right, I'm not going to go through that scenario again. I'm going to try something else here now. Or, now I know say something at work, I can stick on that, right? I can continue to do this. But you're not going to continue doing something and you know it doesn't work. Once you have a little bit of knowledge, you can build on it. You have a little bit of a foundation, right? Have a little of a foundation. But, again, it requires at least a little bit of base knowledge. Most people who go to court, they don't know what the hell going on. Them don't know what go on, them just answer question and them try come out of court. Right? So, that is how you can change some of these circumstances. Right? I cannot go too far into that. I cannot tell you beyond that. If you want to figure it out, either you come to class or you go and read. Very simple. So, what's the other thing we had here? So one of the things that I was going through in constitutional drafting is no, tomorrow is not class. I want to hurry up the thing, so. Tomorrow is Thursday, right? Tomorrow is Thursday. Signatories don't know when it's class. So you should not ask me. You can't ask me when I class. You're supposed to know. So anyways, you know, I was going through the draft and I had to, you know, pull up on some old research material. And I came across, you know, when you go through, when you go through certain histories, right? They don't tell you all the details. They only tell you the highlights. until you say, oh, there was a civil war, oh, there was this, oh, they formed a Congress. You're not hearing, or you're not reading anything or learning anything in between, right? You're just hearing about the major step points, right? The major achievements that happen along the way. And that is where you need to look, right? What was actually not said. And I'm going to read something very interesting for you, because the same concerns that we have today is the same concerns they had 400 years ago, right? 400 years ago. And one of the other things is that when you don't hear talk about certain types of history, right? It usually means that there is something in there that would be unsettling. This is why they don't teach it. This is why they don't talk about it. This is why they try. They don't necessarily hide it, They just don't make it public or talk about it, right? So before the British came to America and did, all of them so-called discovery and conquering, obviously they met people there. So there was no discovering nothing. They just discovered that people were there, and there was this big land mass, that they could have do all kind of things. So the name of the people that were there prior to Columbus and the Spaniards and the British and all them there, they were all tribes. They had their own civilization, their own legal system. They had everything. This is why the British were so hostile, because they must say, "Una feel like una better than we," right? It's like a bad mind thing. Then just go in there and just start destroy and do all kind of things. But I want to let you see something, right? So this is an account of the coastal tribes on the eastern part of the United States called the Creeks, right? Here, yeah, the Creeks worship the master of the breath and believed in an afterlife. Let me zoom it out a little bit. I wonder if I can make it. Let me see if we can zoom in a little bit. Yeah. Still a little bit. Yeah, so one can see. So I am reading from the document, right? The Creeks worshipped the master of the breath and believed in an afterlife. Family property was owned by their women. Divorce was permitted, as was polygamy. Unmarried women were allowed to have sex with different men, but adultery was severely punished, and menstruating women had to shut themselves away. Creek men from individual talwas waged war against neighboring tribes with the purpose of collecting scalps, torturing captured males to death in public, and enslaving their women and children, right? So now, you have to also realize, these are British accounts, right? So what is being described here? You have to be wondering, how you get this information? Because you can't just walk in at any little place, any tribe, and just sit down there and watch, and just sit down there and take in everything we are going on and see. What view do you have to really be getting this level of detail? Right? A little to the left. All right. Yeah. right? So they are talking about not only the society, but they are talking about the wars that were possibly waged. Now, there is no way, just like in today, right? If a war is supposed to happen, the borders are being secured, travel is restricted, all of them something there. So what they are describing here with a tribe, right? We have to be thinking now, you can come in as a visitor and see how people live their lives. But when you talk about war and you talk about certain things, right? You have to know, think to yourself, how do you get this level of detail in the short amount of time from them arriving? Because just like anyone else in the world, if you bring in a military presence or even certain type of forces who are looking like civilians, you cannot get this level of detail regarding war, right? So even if you get in, to get this kind of information, you would have to be around these people for years for them to trust you. Anyways, let us proceed. So they were collecting scalps, torturing captured males to death in public, and enslaving their women and children until they were able to buy and steal firearms from Europeans. Their most fearsome weapon was the red stick, a curved, tempered club that was painted red with a sharp blade embedded in its outer curve. In hand-to-hand fighting, it was more effective than a tomahawk. War was an annual, though seasonal activity, since most of the time Creek men were engaged in hunting and cultivating crops. War was an annual, though seasonal activity. So, this almost sounds like a sport. How can someone say war was an annual, though seasonal activity? So you see, when you find some of these documents and some of these accounts of these people, right? You have to read it in, like you read it and you stop and you think about it. Because when you have these descriptions, much of it don't make any sense. It don't make any sense. War is not a sport. It is not something where... Anyways. Here you know, once the Europeans arrived, however, the Creeks became slave traders, selling other Indians to white settlers for plantation and domestic work in exchange for guns and goods. Between 1670 and 1715, the Creeks traded over 20,000 Indian captives to Carolina. From this trade emerged a division between the Lower Creeks, who embraced it, and the Upper Creeks, who remained remote from it. Creeks also hunted down runaway black slaves and exchanged them for blankets and rifles. Back in Europe, a new fashion for leather goods drove Creeks to become commercial hunters for English leather manufacturers. All right, Creeks quickly became... All right, here's another thing, right? When you read them something here, you have to wonder, because they are claiming that Indians were in the Americas, right? Exactly, the Victor writes a story. They are claiming that it is the Indians who are running around and doing all of these things. So where are the black people that they are trading? Because remember, at this time, black people are not enslaved. So where are they catching them from to so-called hand them over to the British? You see? You don't hear any accounts of any of this. All you hear is that they caught runaway slaves. From where? You hear no talk of no slave ship and no nothing like that. No Because at this point they don't have no plantation, they don't have nothing. What they do, then just appear out of nowhere? Anyways. And they jump right into it. The Creeks quickly came to understand that the three white fires burned beyond the borders of their land, the British, Spanish, and French. So this was a distraction. The trade was a distraction. The British, Spanish, and French were there trying to come on to the land. Following the 7 Years' War, Britain ejected France from America and Canada, and Spain from Florida. America won independence from Britain in 1776, and France sold Louisiana to America in 1803, although Spain reclaimed Florida in 1783. The American traders intermarried with Creek women and had métis or mixed blood families. The Proclamation of 1763 allowed traders from Georgia to set up outposts in Creek Confederacy where they sold alcohol, West Indies tafia, to the Indians who ran up debts in order to satisfy their craving. Right? So, trust me, when you read through some of this garbage and you use common sense, none of it makes no sense. None of it. What you have is, you have a history that is written on paper, that is clearly storytelling. It doesn't add up. It does not add up in any way, shape, or form. There is no way the British had so... Listen, let me show you something. Let me show you something. Because some people, you know, you don't have any idea of what we're talking about. This is on Google Maps, right? This is Google Maps. All right. You see, this is the United States, right? This is the United States. Right down here, so. Right? All right. Make we go over Europe. Look at the United Kingdom. Look at this little patch of land and look on this piece of land over here, so. You want to tell me, say, this little patch of land here, right here, so. And here, so. Right? You want to tell me, say, this, that was not even fully populated, conquer this whole thing. Does that make sense? Ah, la la. Anyways, we're not going to get into all of this history foolishness, but if you have any form of common sense and you look on this, none of it makes no form of sense. Look at France. France is bigger than the UK. France is bigger than UK. How you run out France and Spain? Look at Spain down here, so. Spain, geographically, is also bigger than the UK. How you end up chase out Spain out of so-called them place here? Anyways, garbage. And you cannot sell something you did not lawfully acquire. If you did not lawfully, all right, you get piece of capture land. You can sell title. You can sell title feet. Where was your possession registered to be selling anything? Spoils of war in a civilized society does not work. Spoils of war is only during wartime. Once you have peacetime and civilized society, spoils of war become invalid. You only get anything that is movable. Land cannot be spoils of war. This whole thing about colony and all this foolishness is garbage. Because once the people become aware of what's going on, you can simply draft your own constitution and your Declaration of Independence. slavery is abolished, right? If slavery is abolished, what authority are they going to use to stop you from claiming your own independence? By whose and what's authority? Anyways, at the end of the day, we are not here to dig up the ants' nest. We are here to state our claim and keep it moving. Them have plenty of other territory them can go mess with. But our ancestors on this little island, we have done enough. Listen, even if we have to start from scratch, we can do it by ourselves. We don't need the colonial help. Let me say that again. Even if we have to start from scratch, even if we don't have the consolidated fund with all of the tax money, even if we have to mash down the building them and build them back, even if we have to run out all of the pillagers out of the country, we will be fine. And we build alright anyways. And we build the whole of it anyways. Do you think we can build it back? They're not doing nothing for Jamaica and Jamaican. Exactly. He will never be able to show you a civil proceeding rule authorizing the filing of traffic tickets. Huh? He will never be able to show you a civil proceeding rule authorizing the filing of traffic tickets. Okay, I don't know what that means. But anyways, like I said, if we as a nation decide to move forward, we don't need the direction of all of the people there. Right? So even if they take away the so-called system, even if they take away all of the regulatory framework, what is going to happen? You see, people love say, all right, make the police stop work and see if the criminal them not take over. Take over what? You see, the only reason why the criminals exist is because the government is restricting the people from being armed. Back in the day when everybody have a machete in the yard, you think we have no heap running a go on? You think we have nobody a running pan nobody house a try rob and do all them something that very rare. People are hide and thief. But back in the day, you know say somebody a go have machete in the yard. You go in the yard, boy you rob and thief and do all them something. No. No. So in today's day and age, where everybody can have access to a firearm and training for that firearm, if you roll away a firearm away yard, we get rid of criminal a long time. We get rid of criminal a long time. We don't need the police for that. I am not saying that they're not doing a good job. This is not an anti-police page. I stated this almost on every live when I can or when it comes up. We are not anti-police. But don't for a minute think that it is the police that is keeping us safe. If we the people had access to all of the resources necessary, we don't need police. A man running pan you blow him away. Plain and simple. What am I doing at your yard 2 o'clock at night? Oh, come on. Come on. Everybody have phone. If you need to reach somebody, you call them. We are a disarmed nation. That is why we have these problems. And no matter how much people get unalive, them nothing happen. Nothing happen. So until that day comes where we can defend and protect ourselves and our property and our family, we always are going to be in this problem. right? We keep on hear about how much billions being spent, how much trillions for that project, how much this, how much that. And imagine I feel with money, but we can't see what in the account. We can't see what in the consolidated fund. We can't see the accounting. We can't see the invoices. We can't see no project plan. We are not a part of any lawmaking. We are not a part of any parliamentary decision making. We are not a part of any bill. We are not a part of any resolution. We are not a part of any act. We are not a part of any kind of deliberation at all. So how is it our money? How is it our money, but we don't have no say on what happened to that money? If you see at this point, just give our money, make we go name it. I mean, if we don't have the control over it, just make me name free food every day. Just I don't know what else to say. Because what benefit are we seeing from keep on plugging this tax bucket? And we can't see no benefit from it. Just make me go name it, brother. Make me go rent one Benz for 6 months and run out that. Just say, yo, down the street we got, you know. Make we get some enjoyment out of it. Right? Me decide what me want to do with my cut. Give me for my piece. Give me my piece of the cheddar. So make me decide, yo, if I want whatever I want to buy, make me go blow it out. Me no want you manage my affairs. No, sir. Me no like how that I run. So make me deal with the thing. Give me my little piece. Give me my little thread bag. And make me just go over here, so. Yeah. That me want. No. Me no like how you manage the thing. Yo. You have to skate from the 12 at a time. You see me? Because if we don't have no control, none at all. We don't have no control out a road. We don't have no control in a court. We don't have no control over parliament. We don't have no control nowhere. Kuya, then start report the live. Them start report the live. Live is not eligible for recommendation. Yo, I'm in a business at this point. Me does attack, you see me? I don't know if I should them. I don't know how I go on, but whatever. The agents them not like that. Hey. So you see, even with freedom of speech, they want to stop. You stop without a road, you name with food, you take with money, and you still want more. You see what I talk about? The greed is unlimited. There is no stop. No kind of limitation on it, like you just want to control every single thing. Right? Even if even if you have control of every single thing else, you still want control how we talk? I wonder why. Hey, you don't know why I come. Hey Kev, behave yourself before them ban you know. Hey, listen man. At the end of the day, you see, it is inevitable that we the people are going to become smart enough to be able to handle our own affairs. It doesn't matter how much people them try stop. The awakening has already begun. You see the individual that come on earlier, him not have no idea what we've been doing here. Him never have no idea, but the same exact thing that we have been going through, him come up and I try suggest it. You see? So is not just we over here so. The post them get suppressed, The lives then get suppressed, everything getting suppressed because of what is coming. Scorpio wants to come up. Scorpio, you're up. Yeah, it's the vibration. Is it?
Blessed greetings, brother.
Scorpio, lawful, greetings.
Yeah, man, greetings, brother, man. Honestly, let me first say this is my little sister's account. Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, man. Anyway, I want a question I want to ask still. Pertaining to how would I put it now? The indigenous people, which is the Maroon, because they are the real, we say, real set of people that owns the island, that belongs to the island. I'm
No.
saying, not really.
No.
Okay, anyway, all right. I mean, maybe it's misinformed in that department, but what I'm saying, and a structural, like a constitutional structural thing that set up by this system, is it there something like that where can be set up within that organization of that indigenous people itself, other than the constitution we have, which is written by given to us by another country? So I am wondering or asking then, what are the steps, or if there's any step can be taken in other than probably say gathering and creating our own thing. But I mean, is there another legal way we can battle with, or where it within the system where we can battle it out for at least for real recognition of the indigenous people, knowing that they are the heirs of are one of the heirs of this land?
Yes, there is. You can, but why? Why would you want to go that route?
All right. Consider I've been here on this planet for quite some time and can see seeing what is happening now
Mm-hmm.
is far from where I should say where certain history begins. We in terms of humanity and people itself, how we live and choose to survive and thrive as people. You know what I mean? And I can say there's something wrong with the system, or if not the system, something is wrong with the people. You know what I mean? So on that basis, I would take it on that basis that there is something wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
yes, I recognize it.
Okay, well, to answer your question, it sounds like you just joined the live.
Honestly, yes, I will. I kind of sometimes tune into you, sometimes, but it's my first
Okay.
time really say, yeah, really want to touch base with you.
Okay. So you realize we're doing constitutional drafting, right?
That's why I asked that question in terms of in
Okay.
that. Yes.
So let me answer your question directly. The first thing is that each each tribe or group that is
Yeah.
claiming to be indigenous, right?
Yes.
Them no want hear nothing else.
Okay. Oh, so actually, so it's us that are the problem then, not the system, because us are the problem then.
I mean, I go say us because every group have a leader.
Yeah.
So if the leadership decides that they know what is best, them no want hear nobody else have to say, them know the best road for them do them thing, then what are we going to do about that?
Yeah, that's a point. That's a point.
So that's one problem.
Yeah.
The second problem is none of us can claim necessarily to say indigenous. We
Okay.
are natives.
Yeah. Okay.
So
And just no, I don't really cut you, but so what you're saying literally then, based on certain history that I've been taught, um, really about indigenous people, and knowing new history that the Moors, which was the black people, was one of the indigenous people, and this before the so-called discovery of the Western Hemisphere. And you have you have architectural proof, you have evidence that there was people like those. I don't know under what circumstances, but they were here before.
Right, but who today is a Moor?
Oh, that's a good question. Today, modern day would be a more. That's a good question, brother, to be honest. But from my perspective, I would identify myself as a more for myself.
All right. All right. You see, all right. There are a lot of problems, but I'm gonna give you the core problem with that
Yeah,
theory.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You see, for you to be a part of a people,
Hmm.
you need to have what's called cultural awareness.
Definitely.
So just because you say you're a Moor, or just because you say you are a Maroon, or just because you say you are, a Cherokee, or you say you are a Creek, or any tribe, if you are not
Yeah.
practicing, if you don't know the history, if you don't know the practices, you don't know the religion, you don't know the beliefs, you don't know the laws, you don't know the holidays, if you don't know the intricacies of any tribe or group, just because you may have that lineage blood, you're
Yeah.
still gonna have to prove that.
Yeah.
Because no government, no institution is going to just accept your word for it.
Yeah. So and I can see why. I can see why too, because if you don't do the research, definitely for yourself, you won't know because they don't really teach it.
Right.
So
It's just like
yeah,
if,
yeah,
if you say that you're a Jew, if you don't practice the Jewish holidays and you don't even know what they are, how are you
yeah,
a Jew?
yeah, true. Yeah, yeah, that is true. That is true. So you first would have to do your own. Well, I do my personal bits and research whenever I can, and whenever I get information, I do research on it. And
Right.
but I would do consider myself a more. I do not practice everything that a more would do, but in terms of being being a man itself, man and a woman, and standing up for really what's right. Care which nation. That's me, you know. So
Mhm.
yeah, for real. But I
Okay.
would say I'm at the fault of knowing the full history and the culture of more, which I would like to know, no doubt. But I still can somewhere at some point identify, knowing myself for myself. I would do consider myself a more, definitely a more.
Right. Well, it all depends on your goal and what exactly you're trying to do. But
It's a universal one to be exactly. It's a universal goal for me actually because for me personally, there's only one race, and it is mankind, and the rest of us are tribes. Everything else is tribe. You know what I mean? So that I know for a fact. Being a man on this planet. You know. So as
right.
I say, it's really a universal thing for me, not just Jamaica, but I would say since I'm in my country, basically I would have to start there. You know, learning and knowing everything I can know about the indigenous, who are the indigenous, how many different types, different indigenous people really belongs to the island, which we kind of find it kind of difficult to see, the Moors indigenous and the so-called Arawaks and the Tainos and, what I mean, everybody tying to one another. But what I've discovered of recently, it it is not saying just my belief. I'm not saying it is, but what I've seen, I realize that personally, it is one color. It's just the color change of the during history, just the color change. So they say more that they would call Indians and stuff. The people that we call Indians and Tainos, they are the Moors because other than that, there is not much proof to show say yes how the physical and the biological looks shows exactly how they really
All
looks.
right. Well,
You know?
you have a lot of major problems there, but
Yeah.
it is largely incorrect. You
Okay.
know.
Well, I'm open for correction, and that's the first thing with me.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
as you know here, I don't like to just give opinions, but um, when we talk about anything indigenous, like the first
Yeah.
peoples and so forth, we have to also remember, the evidence of something does not mean that what we were told is true,
True.
right? Because we can find fossil of a lizard, we can find fossil of a donkey. That don't
Mm,
mean that it is native to the land. Somebody can just
true.
bring it there and it dead, and it just
Mhm.
It just become a fossil,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we cannot rely on anything just on one source. We have to do what's called cross collaboration of evidence.
True.
So we have to read from one account, then we go to the next account, we go to different peoples, we go to different books, and again, yes, it can seem daunting to a lot of people, but if
Yeah.
you are serious about making a claim,
Yeah.
something as serious as claiming something from a certain nation, you have to have intricate knowledge of it. So if because you are undoubtedly you are going to come to a position where you're going to have to defend what you're saying. You're going to have to substantiate it.
At
And
some point,
you don't want to lay your eggs in a basket and somebody come and just step on it and you can't do nothing.
yeah, that's true.
Right. So I would say that, if you're going to make any form of claim, it doesn't matter if you're even making the claim of an indigenous Jamaican, you have to look and dig. You have to go and do your research, not
Yeah.
just what they have on, our side of the world. You have to go to the other side, and look at, if they give you one history, then say, oh, we have British rule, then we have, and the British rule come from conquering Spain and whatever else. Go look what the Spanish them have to say.
True.
Because most of what they teach is what? British history. They don't teach nothing about the Spanish. They don't teach nothing about the Creeks. They don't teach nothing about the Americans.
True.
So, yeah, you have to diversify, your research.
Yeah, and think about it too, just the same. Because then again, if the source is basically, since they say the dark race is from Africa, I've been trying to see if I could make the connection with from Western Africa itself, being as this most of the slave within the slave trade business, just to understand, how would it tie in if there were Moors before, if there were blacks before? How do they know? But one thing I've came up across that within the history that the Moors were the one that teaches shown Christopher Columbus the trade wind route, because
Right.
he didn't know about that. And obviously the Moors were traveling that route before him for them to know the route.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I still, as I said, personally, I say I would not know everything, but based on the slave trade history that I have, and I know about the Moors and knowing certain things, that's on the basis that I would probably say, having the dark skin, I would be a Moor. Really. If I practice it, that would have be a whole different thing. But I would say probably the genetics or whatever, the race itself or the tribe itself, would be a more.
Right. Well, you cannot go with assumptions when you go that deep. You have to
Well,
find you have to
yeah,
find
yeah.
evidence.
Yeah. I know. That's why I say, you see, that's why I'm asking questions and I'm making sense. And I said I am open up for correction because I I I appreciate knowledge so much that wherever it comes from and it makes sense and it's true knowledge, then it's power to the people or power to me. You know.
Right.
Mm,
Exactly.
yeah. But anyway, thank you for having me, and I will, be still tuning in, and no doubt, great work, here, though. Great work, here, though. Trust
Yeah,
me.
man. Big up yourself. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, man, yeah, man.
All right. Cool.
All right, Papa.
So, um, so even on that topic, King, if you want to come up, you can explain, but your written words are not making sense. So, on what the gentleman was talking about earlier, right? Let me see if I can show you something, right? I'm going to show you something on the map, right? So here we have here we have the continent of Africa, right? This is the continent of Africa. See, we have Madagascar, Ethiopia, right? All these places, right? You see where Spain is? You see where France is? See, Africa don't have so, you know. And look at these small places. You see where Germany is? You see how close all of these areas that we usually hear about are? Now, here is Russia up here, so, right? Here is Russia. You see these clear looking areas, that means it doesn't have a lot of vegetation, right? Anyways, so see Africa down here, so, you know, and see Russia all the way over here, so, right? All of this are Russia. Did you know that Russia was one of the places that never had slaves? Never had black slaves, right? But these little piece of lands over here, almost all of them had slaves, right? Right, China never had slaves either, but China is all the way over here as well, right? Now, there is a reason China didn't have slaves. We're going to talk about that another time. Now, if you notice, you know, almost half of Africa has lush greenery, right? And they are very close to what we are calling Europe up here, so. Right? Now ask yourself a question again. You see how small these places are? Do you think that they had the manpower and the machinery to go through all of these places, but them spread Christianity and destroy everything? Do we really believe that this entire populated continent was conquered by these little small nations? And if they were, it was certainly not by conventional weapons. There is absolutely no way this little piece of place here can both them a conquer and a rule and a do all of what them claims them a do. No way. And on top of that, them a send so-called slaves over here, so when they did not even know that Africa is not the only continent. The only reason they come down here, so, you know, is because they hear stories, you know. And they were mostly over here, so in the bush and mountains. Right? A lot of these are mountainous regions. When they come down here, so, and end up down at Egypt, right? Remember, they don't like water, you know. They don't like water. So they are not going to be making boats and doing all these trade things. It is those who were between Egypt and these three places, Libya, Sudan, and Egypt. These three places are where all the knowledge and trading by sea was coming from. People in Dongas don't have a business about them foolishness there. I can't say much more. Can't say much more. But as you can see, UK, France, Germany, Spain, very small. Nowhere close to how big Africa is. And this African continent map that you see here is not to scale. It is bigger than this. They had no reason to try to conquer all of this. But anyways, like I said, I can't say much more than that. Can't say much more than that. But anyways, we are out of time. The teacher could only teach what they were taught. Well, they can only teach what they were taught and what they learn. Right? The victors are the ones who write so-called history. But when you know better and you go searching for yourself, you will get a different answer. Some lie tell, whole heap a lie tell. Whole heap. You can't even begin to imagine the amount of lie we tell. Trust and believe. Exactly. Listen, man, when you talk about lying, these people, you can't, there is no limit. Like me say, unlimited plunder, unlimited, them just want to get away with everything. Even in today's day and age, last thing I'm going to talk about, the artifacts that they took from Africa, and them claim say them have it in a museum in a Britain, right? And even when confronted in this day and age, them say, okay, we can't do no reparations because that would crumble our economy and we were not a part of the slave trade and we were not this. All right, fine. Fine. You were not there. It was your forefathers and all of that. You know want to pay it back? Fine. Give it back all of the something them with your teeth. That's simple. We not ask if you pay back the money. Give us back all of the artifacts that you stole from all of the sacred places in the African countries. Them say no. Them say no. Them don't want to give it back. Why? Why? The point is they know that these things are not just physical objects. These things that were stolen are not just physical objects. So they don't want to give it back. Even though they claim to be civilized and they are sorry and it should not have happened and it is not theirs, and yes, their forefathers stole it, and yes, it was being stored and preserved and not destroyed. So give it back. Now you know it was wrong. Now you know it was a crime. Now you know that it's not yours. Give it the hell back. What you hold on it for? We never asked if you're a caretaker. Did we say we can't handle it now, so, you know, go and hold on it for we? So, exactly, a lot of our history is whitewashed. Well, I don't even know what kind of wash we call it, you know, because it is not even partially correct. Not even partially correct. But the time shall come. The time shall come. If then they claim that we are savage, why would you want to keep the items of savages? Does that make any sense to anybody? If we were so barbaric and we were so backwards, why would you want to go take? It's just like I said, if somebody was living in a pigsty, why would you go lay with the pigs? Why would you go stand with them and try to civilize them? What sense that make? If we pose no threat and we were just docile and we were just living a barbaric life, what you do over there? You know, just look and say, yo, interesting, could they take a picture and you go back to your yard? Exactly. Why would you keep the pig's toys? Such man. See you. Jano Star. They give some of it back on a 3-year loan. What they claim they are giving back is nothing. That is still nothing to what they have. You know, they literally have an underground city filled with our items. Anyways, we're not going to get into that. Big up on yourself. Thank you for joining the live. Thank you for joining the live, and we will continue again on Saturday at 6 p.m. Signatories, class on Saturday. Big up on yourself, and we will catch up. Lawful, always.